Lacrosse community, my name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. Today, we're joined by three-time All-American player at Johns Hopkins and all-around amazing coach. He's been in Division I space for quite some time, currently over at University of Maryland coaching, Bobby Benson. Bobby, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. For those in our community that aren't quite aware of who you are, what you've been up to, can you start by sharing a little bit about how you get in lacrosse in the first place?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. I'm super excited to be here and share a little bit of myself with your community. But I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. I was one of the lacrosse stick in the hospital bed babies. So I played my whole life growing up. My dad played in college. So I was kind of blessed to be given a stick at a young age. And, you know, up till 6th, 7th grade, I'd probably tell you I didn't know if I liked lacrosse or baseball more, but that kind of turned, and I realized where I had a chance maybe to be decent. But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really thankful for all of the sport's done for me.
Oh, we always love to hear from the guys that have had lacrosse a part of their background for such a long time, and we know how big of an impact it has. Growing up in the game and ultimately playing and coaching at such a high level, do you have a pinnacle lacrosse moment, or what are some of the moments that really stick out in your career?
Oh, I don't know if I have a pinnacle lacrosse moment. I think that, you know, I've just been so fortunate to, you know, have so many great experiences, whether it's winning championships in high school, at the NCAA level, the World Games level. Those were some awesome experiences for sure. Whether it's traveling over to Japan for lacrosse, whether it's reuniting with old friends playing old man lacrosse at 40 years old. You know, they're all kind of pinnacle moments in their own. You know, my boys are 8-6 now coaching their teams. You know, all of that is probably, you know, kind of special in its own way. And I'm just blessed for all the opportunities I've had and for the opportunity I have right now at the University of Maryland.
And Bobby, to hear all the small moments aren't just big moments. I think that's really resonates with me of sticking with the present. We hear so often, be where your cleats are, be where your shoes are, and to cherish every single moment. I know you've got a bunch of accolades. We see them right behind you and you're in the stand back there. Whether those are the ones of just Maryland or
just the Maryland accolades. A couple of those might, you know, I might have something to do with, but I'm in a pretty special place.
Yeah. Well, from your perspective, Bobby, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership to me is, you know, a process in which you form a relationship with, you know, people or groups of people to, you know, work together toward common goals. And, you know, I think the relationship piece is a big part of it. You know, and I think that's probably where, you know, kind of leadership starts.
And I know there's a few different parts of leadership, whether it's the coaching spot or the player spot. I'd like to be able to dive into each of those a little bit. For our younger players right now, if they want to be leaders, what should they be doing, or how do they start forming relationships amongst their peers?
I think to, you know, be a leader, if you're young, you've got to be respected by your peers. That includes your work ethic. It includes how you treat people. It includes how you act off the field. It includes how personable you are with your friends. And I think you have to set those examples on the field and off the field. You know, you've got to be one of the hardest workers. You've got to set, you know, that high standard, but you also got to be able to relate to your players or to your teammates.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to ask someone to do something, you should probably be willing to do it yourself. So as a player leader, you need to be able to do all those sprints, make sure that you're one of the first guys done, you're working the hardest day in and day out, because that sets the standard. Is it the same type of relationship building from the coaching side of things, or how do you build relationships with your players as a coach?
From a coaching side, you don't necessarily set the example with extra work on the field, but you do with extra film, you do with a hard work ethic, you do by, you know, spending extra time and trusting and listening to those that play for you. and making sure that you're working together toward the goal and not trying to force your ideas on them and listening to their ideas, but also trying to make sure that you're explaining to them why what you're doing will hopefully put them in the best position to be successful. And if you can formulate those relationships through some of those processes, that's usually how you have the most success.
So it sounds like by taking some extra time to talk with the players, that's how you build the relationships and the trust.
Talk, text, private film sessions, making sure you listen to them on the field. Most of the time they're all out trying to do their best. So understanding where they're coming from and what they're feeling when they're out there can go a long way into making sure you keep a positive relationship.
Yeah, I can imagine then if you're doing all those things together, it forms a really close relationship. Can you share an example from your past coaching, whether it was in the crazy COVID era and switching teams, or before when you're at Hopkins, when it was really valuable to have that relationship and how having that relationship really impacted the team?
I don't know if there's necessarily, one set example, but I would say that around 2013, I completed my master's degree, kind of changed the way I was going to coach, the way I was going to lead, and, wanted to, really allow the players to have more freedom and to be more transformational. And I think that from then on, just my relationship with the guys has been a lot better. And the success on the field has been a lot better as well. And not that then we didn't have success. There were some successful teams. There were some great relationships I had. I remember back in 2008, 2009, having guys over the house for dinner. I remember coaching a losing team and running the sprints with them because I was coaching that team. I remember some of that too, to try to build those relationships. But I think the more you can put in the players' hands, the more you can give them, the more leadership you can give them, the better off the team is.
So a few things are really coming up for me right now. First off, the transformational leadership is something that we hear a whole lot, and I want to dive down that, but also putting the power in the players' hands. I think there's extra accountability with that. And you don't know what you don't know. Giving the guys or gals, whoever you're coaching, that opportunity to step up and rise to the occasion can accomplish some great things. Can you talk a little bit more about the transformational leadership aspect, though, and how your mind has shifted for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, kind of like I said, it's just a matter of working together and working hand in hand, and having a back and forth, where you can kind of feed ideas off of each other and trying to make sure that everyone's comfortable, everyone's working together. It's not one person at the top kind of, delegating down below, but if you can get everyone just working together, even from a leadership, from a strategic, from a work ethic, from a game plan standpoint, when everyone's working together, everyone's comfortable, everyone's talking, things happen a little bit smoother.
And so before that happened, were you saying that things were really rigid then, and the leadership style was, hey, this is what you have to do, or what was it before?
Or again, I had, a couple of years earlier where I would tell you, different, things to really try to make sure that you kept the relationship. But I probably didn't give them as much freedom to go play, and, probably looked at offense more of a science and less of an art. And, I think I recently tried to look at it more of an art and less of a science. And let's go out and create something that looks really good, instead of, if we go here and guy slides here, we can throw it here. And they, if we cut this guy, they don't have a second slide and we shoot it. And there's time for that. There's times that we have some set plays. But, if we're not doing well, if we need a little quick hitter, it's not out of the repertoire, but I think I've just shifted kind of the mindset some to be less scientific and more artistic.
So is that because you just have more trust then in the players at the end of the day and the skills and IQ that they have, or?
I think that as times changed and as players changed and as I changed, I just kind of realized that I thought it was a better way to go about my business, and manage the group and, hopefully have as much success as possible. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's just been, the ways I've done it. and we had a lot of success, obviously, in the, when I was coaching the other way too. So, a lot of ways to skin a cat, a lot of different ways to be successful, that's for sure. I just do the best I can to hopefully each possession put the ball in goal.
Well, it seems like it's working. You constantly have one of the top offenses in the league, and whether it's just the X's and O's or giving the kids the opportunity to do it on their own, I think that's pretty massive, and that's something where I think our younger listeners should be hearing for those younger players, or maybe like the recruits you got coming in, the freshmen. What do you tell them? What does it take to get on the field and have that leadership or those big roles?
I think the biggest difference is you kind of move up levels, whether you're going from youth up or high school up or college up, is the speed and physicality of the game. And you think you have good skills, you think you throw and catch well, and having those skills be really on point. If you have to worry about your skills and worry about your throwing and catching with the left or right hand at a pace that's needed for that level, you set yourself back because now you're thinking, you're slowing down, you're not playing as you should be. So the skills are something that you really need to work on all the time, and that's something that I think is really important.
And we know that the skills that need to be worked on, they're probably not necessarily done at practice. It's on that time on your own.
That's when you need to get out on your own. I mean, we can get you 10 or 15 shots in a shooting drill, but you can get 10 or 15 shots in a minute if you have somebody feed you and you're out shooting on your own, and you can stay out there for 30 or 40 minutes and do the math. So yeah, you definitely need to be working hard and working on your own to put in the extra time from the stick work and shooting standpoint, especially.
Do you think that's one of the biggest things in just the change of kids that are playing now, is just access to playing and getting in the reps and just the physicality, they get bigger and stronger? Or how does the game compare now to when you were playing?
Athletes are bigger and stronger, I think. Some ways the skill level is ridiculously good. People nowadays make plays that we couldn't dream of. The ball might move a little less at times. Some of that might have to do with the sticks. The ball doesn't come out of the sticks as easily. Games evolve. You just try to manage it the best you can and try to figure out a way to score a goal in the next possession.
One of the things that keeps coming up for me is that, hey, how do we have one goal at hand? We got to score a goal in the next possession. We got to cherish the ball to get there. And it seems like a singular focus is so important with everything that we do. For these young guys looking to play at the highest level, what are some of the things that we want them to focus on right now? Or is there just one thing they can focus on to get there?
I mean, I would always come back to, if you're a young guy, obviously you have to be doing a good job in school. You have to be doing a good job off the field. You have to be a good person. All of those things are super important. So I do not want to sound like they're not, because they're more important than lacrosse to be successful in lacrosse or be successful in life. But in addition to all those, you have to work hard on your stick work and shooting and skills. Unless you're going to be just a really, really, really athletic defender, you might be able to get away with a little bit of rough skills, but you've really got to have good skills, good slickness, and you've got to understand the game. And we can go out and try to recruit all the best athletes we can. At the end of the day, most of us end up playing guys that have the best stick work and the best IQ.
So at the end of the day, a lot of athletes are out there, but the guys that really make it are the ones who have the best stick, the best minds.
I would say they're really important to, being a successful lacrosse player as you move up a level.
Yeah, I just think about the pace at which the game has moved to. It's awesome to watch, and we just have so much fun seeing the kids play at that level, but it can be a little intimidating, I think, for these younger guys getting there, and even once they step up there, especially coming from some of the smaller areas that aren't necessarily the hotbeds. For these kids, though, that are wanting to play at the highest level, do you see most of them coming when they come over to the East Coast and play in tournaments? Or I know you've coached a few guys from Arizona.
Recruiting is done a lot of different ways, but there's a lot of traveling up and down the East Coast and a lot of guys from the West coming east to play. There's coaches that go out west. There's some great programs out west now. Every year it tends to look a little bit different. I think COVID taught us that a lot can be done with film and online as well. Some coaches are more willing to do that than others. Some want to see you play live. It's kind of always evolving, but it's a lot of guys coming east to get seen, or coaches going out there for a couple big tournaments.
Got it. So it seems like with this new environment, there's even more ways to be seen, but ultimately it comes down to you have to build a relationship. You have to find the coaches, find the program that fits with you, and make some initiative to be able to build that relationship. And ultimately, if your skills are there, you can attend that program.
That's it. No, that's important. There's a lot of good lacrosse players out there, and it's not an exact science. Everyone's just doing the best they can, and there's good schools for everybody. There's big schools, there's small schools, there's schools that have really strong academics, there's schools that sit in cities, there's schools that have nothing around them, and all have their positives and negatives. And when you get an idea for what type of school you like, there's usually a bunch of schools at all levels that kind of fit that mold or that kind of DNA.
And I think that's a big comment to make sure that it resonates with the younger guys that are out there, the families. Tons of opportunities to play lacrosse. There's only 40, 50 spots on each of the programs, so not everyone can play on those. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you can play at that level and you get to go where your goals are, it seems like the world really opens up. Bobby, can you talk a little bit more about how your life has been affected by lacrosse?
I mean, I've been super blessed. Lacrosse has kind of been a part of my life everywhere, from where I went to high school to where I went to college, to meeting my wife through lacrosse. So I've been super blessed. It's taken me to Australia, Japan, all throughout the United States. So I've been super blessed in everything. I've been able to, coach lacrosse so I can avoid having a real job for the last 20 years, and I'm just so fortunate. The game's done so much for me.
Oh, we love to hear that, Bobby, and I think that's the reason why we keep giving back to the game, is it does so much to us. We take skills from the game itself and relate it to the real world, and it gives us the ability to stand up and go above some of our peers to get promotions, get paid more, whatever it is, or follow our dreams. Can you talk about some of the skills that you took from your playing days that you're implementing now in your life?
I mean, I think as a player, you start to learn strategies. You start to learn how to relate to teammates. You start to learn what people are thinking. And I think those things are constantly evolving. But I think a lot of, my ideas and the way I like to teach or coach or act go back to whether it's me playing lacrosse in college or me playing basketball in high school. I think, to this day, the way I would teach you to set a pick or, play a two-man game would be kind of like I learned in basketball when I was in ninth grade. So I think that there's a lot that kind of goes into, when you grow up and what your experiences are and how they kind of mold you into who you are.
And it's interesting. We can have so many different aspects of life, and each of those it's like throwing, I guess, pasta at the wall. If it's done and it fits, it's going to stay up there. And we just keep on throwing different things, and it gets molded into the personalities we are. Not only is it our values, integrity, respect, those things that your parents give you, but then it's the tactical skills as well that you get from different sports, whether it's, sure, football, soccer, basketball, lacrosse, they all form you into an athlete, and you get more values from those. I have a feeling I know what the answer is, but what are your thoughts on multi-athlete players, or right now players that play multiple sports?
I wish everyone would play 3 sports, 4 sports, 5 sports. I think you learn so much about life. I think you learn about taking criticism. I think being coached by different people, I think using different muscles is good for your athleticism. I know we're in an environment where it's harder. I am, as one person, not trying to redo the entire high school youth club sports scene. But I would just tell everyone to play as many sports as they can for as long as they can, and to play them competitively, and to learn about the sport, get coached hard in the sport, work hard in the sport, because I think you learn a lot from doing that.
So one of the things I heard from one of our coaches out here, Chris Malone, he said, "Hey, if you're good, you're going to play." Coaches and you're going to say you got to play one sport, you got to play one sport. But if you're really athletic, you're going to be able to do what you want. And I always thought that was an interesting point. It seems like that's, at the end of the day, just play something very high level and keep playing a lot of it.
Yeah, the more you can play at a high level, the more you can do, the better. I know it's hard. I know schedules run into each other. I know parents have to give rides everywhere. I know there's budgetary issues, within families because everything's expensive now. So, I'm not trying to redo the whole youth sports cycle, but the more sports you can play, I just think the better.
And since there's so many sports going on, I think it's important for families to think about the coaches that are actually coaching their sons. When you think about it as a father as well as a collegiate coach, what would you tell those families when they're trying to find a team for their kid? What should they be looking for?
I mean, I think you got to look for whatever your the son or daughter wants to do. If they like playing on that team, go play on that team. If they want to go play on this team, go play on this team. If they want to play spring and not fall, play spring and not fall. I think that whatever the athletes or the student athletes want to do is usually what's best for them. I don't think trying to force them or send them directions that they want to go is advantageous.
And I think that boils down to in my mind, there's no such thing as control or influence. At the end of the day, we all have agency over our own lives. And it seems like that's what you're doing in your coaching style now. It's, hey, you guys have the power. We have a singular goal, and that's to score a goal every single possession. You guys figure out how to do that. We'll give you guys maybe some parameters, but it's the same thing with parenting. It's, hey, what do you want to do? Let's empower you as my child to live the life that you want.
Very, very similar for sure.
Do you see a lot of these correlations from parenting to coaching?
There's a lot of correlation between parenting and coaching. I would tell you I parent a lot harder than I coach. Somebody told me to treat the players like they're your own kids, and I don't think I could do that. I'd probably be fired too quick. So they don't. My kids probably don't have the same rope that the guys that I coach have, but there's a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of like, okay, let's step back a little bit. He's just doing this because of that, or how can we get him to do better instead of just going to timeout 17 times a day.
Yeah, taking that step back is probably a big part of it, and I'm sure it's something that you develop and grow as a coach as well.
Yes, definitely, and there's definitely some tools that you can use on both sides.
Well, Bobby, thank you so much. I know that our time is drawing near. I'd like to ask you just one last question, though. Do you have any last thoughts or recommendations or anything about lacrosse or leadership that you'd like to share with our community?
I don't think so. I'm very appreciative of you having me on. Hopefully I shine a little insight into, myself and kind of what I've been about the last few years. And it's a great sport, and I hope everyone has a lot of fun because at the end of the day, it should be fun. And that's the important thing, is that we all have to enjoy what we do.
Oh, I couldn't have said it better. This is about just having a lot of fun, living full lives. Bobby, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you for having me.